Okay, welcome welcome all to the All Brucked Up podcast. We are your hosts. I am Akiva. This is Sheldon. We are brothers.
Yes,
So welcome to the first episode. I think it's a good idea just to sort of give everyone an idea of what we're trying to do here. And obviously, as is readily apparent to everyone here, my brother and I are very different individuals. We have very different outlooks on life and various things politically, religiously. Nevertheless, we're brothers. We love each other. We're close. We have a good relationship. We can have a healthy, open discussion. And what we're trying to facilitate here is to create a community where we can do just that, facilitate open, healthy discussion about a variety of topics, whether it be more hot-button topics, political issues, dealing with things more on the religious aspect of things, since we both grew up Orthodox Jews. So that being said, Sheldon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at right now in life, what you're up to, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, hello. I'm Sheldon, Akiva's brother. I am currently living in Tel Aviv in Israel. I'm working in high tech over here in marketing. As Akiva mentioned, we're a little bit different. We both grew up in an Orthodox Jewish community. Clearly, I am a gay man. I don't know if it's clearly, but it's pretty clear. So I definitely took a little bit of a different path than my brother. He got more religious than we were raised. I got, I guess, kind of less religious in a sense.
Whatever that means.
Right, exactly. So, oftentimes, even when we're just, walking down the street together, people are like, what's going on with them? What's the deal? Are they, dating? Or, is there, some sort of, conversion process going on? Truthfully, we look very different, and he mentioned Akiva. We have a lot of different outlooks in life and everything, but we also have a lot of common ground that we also really agree on, and have a lot of similar views in that sense. But then at the end of the day, we always hear each other out, and we can respect each other's side, even if I'm the one who's always right, which just happens to be the case. I can hear about it and everything like that, but we can respect each other's different views, and that's something that's hard to find these days.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the main thing, respecting each other's views, being able to separate ideologies from the person. And even if you think something is wrong, that doesn't mean that the person is wrong. And obviously going into discussions like that with those types of arguments never go anywhere. So,
Absolutely.
So a little bit about myself. I'm married, I have 3 children. My name is Akiva. Probably should have prefaced with that. I live in New Jersey. As Sheldon mentioned, we both grew up Orthodox Jews. I connected a little bit more to Orthodox Judaism when I was in high school and when I studied in Israel for a bunch of years before me and my wife moved back with our then twins. Now we have a third child. That was about 4 years ago. So we're here now. I still study, learn, try to teach when I can. I do have a book out. I'm going to put a shameless plug in there real quick from Behind the Curtain, a Hasidic Guide to Finding Hashem, in an Orthodox Jewish bookstore as opposed to an unorthodox Jewish bookstore, in a Jewish bookstore near you. Exactly. I mean, you never know. It's an intro to the concepts of Hasidus and what they mean for people that don't know a lot or already know. But anyways, so let's just jump right into it. A lot that has been on my mind that I wanted to talk about today. I had just gotten a message from a friend of mine a few minutes ago, or about 20 minutes ago. He sent me a picture that Kanye West had been dropped from Adidas. I feel like it's kind of it's kind of good timing that our first episode, at least we get something a little bit, hot topic to talk about. I hadn't even initially seen the I don't know what it was, a tweet that he had initially put out, whatever it was, a couple of weeks ago. My wife had showed me or sent me a picture of an article, and then I read a little bit of it to try to see what he had said. And I saw I'm going to go DEFCON 6 or whatever he said on these Jews. I'm not even sure what that means, but...
I don't know. Maybe he's living in a video game. He's definitely in his own world. That's not even contested.
Right.
But I don't think he's in this reality, whether he's in the metaverse or whatever, but I don't think the metaverse even is big enough to have a DEFCON thing going on.
Right.
Don't know what's going on.
I'm just happy that it was a few days ago I saw a video where he was on a podcast and he had said that he said in his words almost, I could pretty much say whatever I want and Adidas will never drop 100%. Me. I could pretty much say, anti-Semitic things and Adidas won't drop him. 100%. And, they did. And I commend them for that, obviously. And this isn't the first time. Years ago, probably a decade ago and less, there have been a few instances where he had said things less than admirable anti-Semitic
100%.
things on the internet. And then it calls into question. Obviously, this is a classic case of cancel culture, which is another intense issue, which is often debated on both sides. But I think this is a situation where most people can sort of agree that it was wrong. That obviously he made comments way out of, not just in bad taste, but that were potentially, deeply hurtful to the Jewish community, to all Jews.
100%. I feel like for me, it's interesting because I feel like it's for me, I don't think this is a classic case of cancel culture at all. I think that we're living in a time where people are usually very quick to be like, oh, cancel them. Oh, they're done. There's usually a hashtag right away.
Right, exactly.
It was a trending topic for a few days. Like, oh, he said these remarks. It's, Adidas is a major company. By cutting ties with him, it's a huge deal. In 2020, they did over $1 billion in sales just from his Yeezy line.
Right. That's got to be his main. That's got to be his main cash cow.
For sure. I mean, he's going to claim it's not, but that's regardless. Right. But they're claiming to lose I think it was 217 million euro just till the end of this year from cutting ties with him right away. So it's a huge business decision. So obviously, people could be like, oh, there's my cat in the background. People could be like, what's taking them so long and all that stuff. And a part of me was like that, why didn't they say anything? Or they should have at least denounced in the beginning. Obviously, it's a huge company making that decision. It's a huge loss for them in profits. I believe that they were already down in the quarter. So it's a huge thing, but I feel as though it took a little bit of time, and he was already dropped by CAA, Creative Artists Agency. Anna Wintour from Vogue, she already canceled him. It was already until a few things happened where then it kind of came out. So I just feel in terms of optics, it didn't look good on their part. But you also saw in California people who were supporting him, with the overpass holding signs, Ye is right, all this stuff. We're living
in Chicago,
in a
you had people holding signs. I saw someone that I know that we both know from Chicago had just posted a picture of over a freeway in Chicago of people holding up signs, anti-Semitic signs.
It's crazy, and we're living in a time where we're fighting, as someone who's part of the LGBTQ community, Q plus community, we're always, fighting for our rights and everything. That's something that I had to deal with growing up as an Orthodox Jew and being a gay man. I'm a minority within a minority. Right. But oftentimes I'm just viewed as a white man and just viewed as white privilege right away. But in a time where we're fighting against all that kind of stuff and fighting for Black Lives Matter, that's another thing that Kanye or Ye, whatever he goes by, said. It was White Lives Matter, that whole thing, spitting in his own community's face. Right. But it's just a matter of why is it that anti-Semitism seems not to be in the mix, or it's kind of more of a touchy thing than Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ plus rights, all these other important things, women's rights, equality in the workforce, all these things we're fighting for. And then when it comes to anti-Semitism, we're but there's kind of a leeway. If this was any other celebrity and they said these things about Black people, I believe there would have been a lot more canceling as much faster, and it would have been a quick thing. And I think also a lot of people are talking about his mental health, and clearly, yes, he's not in his right mind for sure. But I also know many people who have mental health issues, whether it's bipolar or schizophrenia, that doesn't make them anti-Semitic or racist. And those kinds of thoughts and everything, there's something underlying. Mental health is not an excuse for that. So for people who are trying to say, oh, he's just not in his right mind, it could be not in your right mind.
It's interesting because I always felt like Jews in general kind of don't really fit into the spectrum, either right or left, in terms of the political spectrum, because on the far left tends to separate Orthodox Jews and secular Jews. Secular Jews are generally placed for some reason more towards the left, Orthodox Jews on the right. But then at the same time, you have the far right, who is extremely anti-Semitic. And so you can't really it seems like Jews are kind of stuck somewhere in the middle in terms of who even wants them. The far right doesn't want them. Ben Shapiro, even, who I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, nor for or against. He said multiple times he's the number one target from the alt-right. So people who claim he's on the alt-right, it's not true. So I feel like Jews are always kind of put into this separate class, or are sort of viewed as this sort of separate class, and that's why it's not generally grouped together with a lot of the other things that these groups are fighting for, whether it be, BLM or LGBTQ plus rights or women's rights or whatever it is, because they're not really part of those groups at their core like other people may be. So those issues don't necessarily come to surface as much. But it is nice to at least see, people coming forward and these big companies coming forward. And I saw a write-up from one company. I forgot what it was. I saw it this morning. It was really nice, really strongly worded, very well written. But I am wondering, unfortunately, because this happened, I think, with Travis Scott, with that whole incident at his concert some years ago, are Yeezys going to shoot up in price now and be super expensive in the resale market? Most likely. Because it's already a huge market. I'm in a bunch of groups of people who are buying and selling.
That's the end. They're
going to have to skyrocket.
They're not even selling. They're pulling.
Right.
So 100% they're going to go up.
And you think Kanye is going to get, because this could be an opportunity, because we both know he's not the type of person who's going to stay quiet. He can't stay quiet.
No.
So he's not going to, he could be canceled from platforms, but he's going to be putting things out and saying things. And even in his interviews, I think he did an interview with Tucker Carlson a few days ago. He still sounded like he didn't sound regretful or remorseful in the slightest for anything that he said. If anything, it reinforced it. But I wonder if any other companies are going to try to swoop in and pick him up in like a few months when this dies down, and then it kind of just fades into the background as if just another
a lot of things happen like
Kanye.
that. I think it's gonna be much more difficult because he's not just an A-list celebrity. He's a major celebrity. Like
right.
Everyone knows him. This is really big news. That's why all the media outlets are picking up on it. That's why all the Kardashian family members had to respond, even though him and Kim are like divorced or still the process of getting divorced.
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. There was a response.
Yeah, every single one of them and the Jenner girls. So like they all had to come out with something against it because people. It's such a big story because of how big of a celebrity he is and how big of a celebrity he's created himself to be. A lot of that being on controversy. So it's I don't think it's going to be as easy, as someone like, Megyn Kelly when she made her remarks about blackface and her show got canceled on ABC.
Right.
Now she still has like her podcast and she has things going on now. You could fiddle your way in after a little bit when things, die down, but he's too big and it's going to last, like it's going to leave a lasting mark. But he's also like, even if he lost all of his sponsorships somehow, like he has plenty of enough money.
I'm sure he's fine.
Extremely comfortably the rest of his life. So I don't think
for sure
his concern is his income. I just think he's a narcissist that so much so that his income comes second. And as a grown ass man, I just hope that he gets the help he needs because clearly he.
It just brings me back to that Sway in the Morning. I don't know if you've ever seen that Sway in the Morning interview when Kanye came on Sway.
Oh my God! It freaked out on him,
and he started yelling, "You ain't got the answer, Sway." That's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest. Right.
You ain't got the answer.
But his freestyle was impeccable. But that was one of the greatest Kanye moments of all time.
There's been so many
I hope so. I hope it doesn't just die down and become something on like the back burner. And what you said is true. Also, he's much bigger now because even when the thing with Taylor Swift happened all those years ago, I remember being a kid and watching that. By the way, on TV. But even when that happened. That lasted. That was talked about for a long time. It stayed with him for a long time, and he wasn't nearly as big as he is now. Then, so I think hopefully this will sort of maybe help him get help. I mean, he obviously is struggling with stuff, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, he has children, and that is really why at the end of the day he needs to get the help that he does. If not for himself, then for his kids, because he has, I believe like 4 kids or something. So regardless of, cancel culture and all this stuff, he's still a father. That's not going to change. So for them, he should get the help he needs.
Yeah, because they're growing up. It's all they see. It's all you're exposed to on social media and the news is going to be all that.
Exactly right. It's not like,
negativity.
Your parents said something, you hear about it from someone in school, it's bad enough. It's like you turn on the TV, you're listening to the radio, you're hearing about your parents all the time. I can't even imagine what that must be like. Childhood's already like for so many of us.
I want to see if I could find this this quick article here because whoever wrote this, here we go. It was from the Hollywood financier and producer MRC when it said it wouldn't move forward with the Kanye West documentary. Are you ready for this? Kanye is a producer and sampler of music. Last week, he sampled and remixed a classic tune that has charted for over 3,000 years. The lie that the Jews are evil and conspire to control the world for their own gain. This song was performed a cappella in the time of the pharaohs, Babylon, and Rome, when acoustic with the Spanish Inquisition and Russia's Pale of Settlement, and Hitler took the song electric. Kanye has now helped to mainstream it in the modern era. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, whoa, you know. It was, I mean, the whole article was very strongly worded, but the point he was trying to make is that Kanye West is just trying to perpetrate the same sort of hate that Jews have received.
It's just interesting because it's like he's had his outbursts, he's done his Twitter things before,
right.
But like all of a sudden, like, does he think that this is some sort of publicity stunt? Is he just in a really bad place? Is it mental health combined with drugs? Like, why all of a sudden, like, I mean, I can't recall him, like, you know, slipping with anti-Semitic things, you know, someone like, for instance, like Mel Gibson. Anyone, when you hear the name Mel Gibson, you think anti-Semitism, whether you're Jewish or not, we all know it's just facts. So allegedly facts.
Spilled on my can't even drink.
But like, it's not like he's said so many things in the past where it's like, oh, it's one of his outbursts again. It's like, where did this come from? All of a sudden that you have these such intense feelings. Like, you don't just develop intense feelings like that overnight.
He's gotten more erratic recently in recent interviews and podcasts. He's like I feel like he's been gradually getting more erratic over the years. And he's had outbursts. He's always had outbursts, but I feel like overall he's been gradually getting like crazier until he snapped them, you know, on a bunch of different occasions. Yeah,
it's really sad. Like I said earlier, I just hope he gets the help he needs for his children, if not for himself, you know.
Right. No one wants to have to see that, and then they grow up in that shadow of knowing. Yeah, but yeah, you know, I think what we were saying before about whether, you know, why these issues aren't necessarily always at the forefront, or they don't get necessarily the same amount of spotlight. I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like there have been times where people have stepped forward and said things, but I do agree that I feel that there is a feeling, even if I'm watching, you know, a more right wing news network like Fox. I rarely watch Fox. I do not like Fox News, but I feel like there's always a lack of focus on anti-Semitic attacks, unless it's things that like are ongoing in Israel, like a war between Israel and Gaza, which is not something we'll discuss now because that's obviously a hot button topic for a different time. But even when things like unless there's like a war going on, and so the news stations are talking about it, there's not going to be a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of coverage as to about different attacks and things that went on, and even the Kanye West coverage becomes more about Kanye West than it does about
100%
upticks in anti-Semitism and, you know, potential inciting of attacks against Jews or things like that. It just becomes like an op-ed about Kanye and his life and his history of erratic behavior, and it's just interesting. I mean, it's like that with a lot of things. I feel like
it's because they're
exactly.
That's because the news at the end of the day, the news is not about helping others or anything like that. It's really about just getting money. Like every other business in America, it's all about making the money. This is a hot button story. They're going to make it like it's all over the news all the time. The same thing. It's not like there's any new details. Like brands dropping him is exciting things. So now they can add more to the story to keep milking it for all it's worth to get more viewers and everything like that. Putting on their YouTube channels, putting on their TikToks and everything else.
Right.
That's what it is at the end of the day. It's not about helping the world or they're delivering us the information to the world because they truly care. Like there's a reason why they're all up for Emmy nominations, and you know all the newscasters have to be like super good looking and everything like that. So it's about at the end of the day.
It's interesting. It always bothered me that. And obviously, in more recent years, when unfortunately there's been a lot of school shootings, I feel like whenever there is, the news coverage is always a deep dive on the killer and everything about him. And I feel like most people, if you were to ask them, they could tell you the name of the shooter, but have no idea who any of the victims are.
Right, so like show a collage of all the victims, or like maybe they'll just do like a quick like montage.
Right,
but
we do
the majority of the focus isn't about that.
The killer.
You know, I was always very into true crime, but true crime is very popular now. So I think people just really want to get into the minds of the killer and like, why were they doing that? That sometimes they forget about the victims and the victims' families and those bloodlines that are no longer going to happen. Like,
I feel like we've become desensitized, so people are detached from the fact that other people are going through serious pain and grief, and we're just doing, like a Hulu documentary about someone, about someone's
not even just a documentary, like an 8-part series.
Right, about how they used to like kill lizards in their bedroom when they were 6. Very strange. That always
interviewing like his first grade teacher that he hasn't spoken to in like 20 years. Like, oh yeah,
right.
I saw in those days something was weird.
Right, they just become sensationalized in the media, and I feel like that probably just promotes other people who are on the brink of just going crazy and doing something similar to push them. If anything, it's going to sort of push them to do something crazy. Seeing 100%. How much attention and
other people have that similar mindset. Yeah, when they see like, oh wow, like people who have that crazy mindset, they'll be like, oh wow, like he's my hero. If he could do it, now I could do it. And it's like that's what's crazy. You're like, oh look what they did. I'm going to try to do better. That's the problem. And they're seeing how much coverage it's getting, and they want that spotlight. It's like a sick psychological thing, and it's frightening. And I feel like
it's really scary.
There are some websites that will blur out the shooters' faces. They don't want to give them that attention, but the majority don't. And it is all about the victim, the shooter, unfortunately.
Right. We're living in crazy times, living in very hectic times. It just feels like there's a lot of hate from everywhere at everyone in so many different ways, and it's a little bit crazy. I feel like in my lifetime I've never experienced anything. I never experienced such division. Who's that, Milo?
We're dog barking. Yeah. It's crazy. I remember like when Trump won the election. Whether or not you liked him or regardless, many people were like, oh my God.
It's for another time as well.
Brought all this anti-Semitism, all this stuff, whatever. And for me, like when he won, it was shocking to me because everyone, whether you liked Hillary Clinton or not.
I remember I texted you in the morning because you texted me. Sheldon texted me the night before I was watching it. He was in Israel, so he was already going to be asleep. And he's like, there's no way Trump is going to win. And when I saw that he won, I was shocked.
Woke up at 6 a.m. He was in the lead. I was like, But, when everyone's like, he's bringing this racism, he's bringing this, he's bringing that. For me, it was like, I took a step back and I was looking and I was like, clearly America was not as progressive and, ahead of the game as we thought we were. Right. And instead of us as society reflecting on ourselves like, whoa, this says something, we were all just blaming him and blah, blah. And now the guy's been out of office now it's going to be 2 years coming up.
Right.
We're still blaming him. This stuff is only getting worse and worse. It's saying a lot about our society. The fact that he was even almost going to win a second time around with 72 million votes says a lot about our society. He got all those votes. Instead of blaming it on him, there's a reason why people are voting for him. And instead of figuring out what's going on in society, everyone's just so divided. And, social media and all this stuff has just brought so much hatred. No one's willing to have a sit-down conversation and listen to one another. Everyone's just, this is my view. That's it. I don't want to hear what you're saying. People get into all these arguments. Most of the time, it's people who live like halfway across the world from each other. You're never even going to see each other in real life. Right. Yeah, you're spending all that time arguing with each other on some YouTube thread. It's ridiculous.
I love finding those threads on like Reddit or Facebook of people just going at each other. And I'm like, I could just see someone like a keyboard warrior, they're called, just sitting there.
My first thought always, before I even dive left or anything, I'm just like, do you work? Like, do you have a job? Like,
right, you're writing down an essay on a Tuesday afternoon. Right. I'm
like, are you at lunch with friends, and then you're just like, and then like your friends just sitting around you, just like going crazy on like your phone, like,
or they're just inside by themselves at their computers, just hacking away essays. It's crazy.
We're living in very dark times. It's very scary, and I feel like the pandemic really intensified everything because it really brought us into our internal selves, and now it's caused a lot of social anxiety and all these different things. And I feel like psychologically it's probably affects us more than we even realize.
Definitely.
And I mean,
me for sure. I know how much being in the beginning being cooped up for so long. I know what it did to me. I know the effects it still has on me. I still work from home. I still work remote. I have a little office by myself, but I still work remote, and I know the difficulties of that and being home. And most people are not home with their families and their kids and their spouses all day long. And as much as you love your family and your kids and your spouses and your pets or whatever it is,
it's not easy.
Everything needs to come in moderation. And obviously that was a little bit over. But I think to a certain extent, I feel like there has been on a more positive note, there has been more of a discussion about mental health issues in general
Absolutely.
on various platforms over the last couple of years, because I think a lot of people were going through a lot of different things. A lot of people were struggling with anxiety or depression or because a lot of people were just kind of stuck at home doing nothing and nothing to do but get lost in their thoughts, get lost in their feelings,
100%.
get lost in what's going on, and then have to deal with them or don't, you know.
Right. A lot of people didn't have the different vices to escape to or bars to run to keep things off their minds. There was a lot of self-reflection going on, whether people wanted it or not. And it was really difficult, and it really made people question their relationships and what they want to do with their lives and careers.
Right.
And it was just such uncertain times. So it's very difficult for a lot of people, but I think, thank God, we're living in times where, it's not so taboo to be talking about mental health. People aren't as concerned about, people judging them or all this stuff. I always spoke to therapists throughout my whole life. Even when I was a kid, I remember talking to my friends oh yeah, my therapist told me, it never bothered me because
right.
I was just very open about it. But a lot of people were like, oh, you see therapists? Or, oh my God, I see one too, but I wouldn't tell people. For me, it was just I don't really care. And it's nice that most people or many people now are feeling more comfortable about it and talking about it and understanding that they might have depression and,
right.
possibly going on something to help them for, whatever it is. And I think it's really good that we're living in a time where we've come so far with that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of other work that needs to be done. Oh my God, I sound like some sort of preacher or something.
Right, it's hard to find right. No, I mean, it's hard to find a balance between there are obviously societal issues in every society, in every community and micro communities with even within in the Jewish world, within the Orthodox world, there's different denominations, and even those denominations, everyone has issues. Dad always used to say when we were kids, everyone has issues. It is true. Everyone has issues. Everyone has things that they got to deal with. Everyone has things that they got to root out rather than looking for someone to use as a scapegoat, whether it be Donald Trump or whether it be Jews or anyone really, to use as a scapegoat for their own issues, their own things that they need to work on and fix.
It's like when you're a kid and, you tell them you tell a parent or principal, well, they started it first, or, oh, well, this, or, oh, well, that, or, oh, it was his fault. And you tell your kids, don't point fingers or, you have to take responsibility for your own actions.
Right.
But, as adults and everything, we're all quick to, oh, it's their fault. Oh, it's their fault. No, everyone needs to point a finger at somebody instead of being stepping back, look at the situation. What can we all do? Instead, it's just nope. One group or one entire thing, it just needs to be responsible for all of it, and we're just going to generalize them all into one whole thing.
Right. And nothing's ever gotten fixed like that, ever.
No. And it never will until we...
Because even if you treat the symptoms, obviously, if the sickness itself isn't eradicated, you're just going to keep having the same issue.
Exactly. Going back to Kanye West, it's just going to keep happening. These outbursts are just going to keep happening, whether it's anti-Semitism, racism, political remarks that are, not.
Yeah, didn't he?
Correct.
Wasn't he running for president at one point? I mean, he was going to run
he's full of stunts.
For the Oval Office.
He was also, a big Trump supporter for a hot second.
Yeah, I remember he was wearing a MAGA hat or something on Twitter. He posted a picture or something. It went.
He loved him, then he didn't like him because, I don't know. It's a mess.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
But these are the people who also are on pedestals in society, and I feel like that.
Which is so interesting because even the people who are fans of Kanye's music, I've never met anyone in my life who's a fan who grew up listening to Kanye, who was a fan and still enjoys his music now. Old Kanye West was great,
different.
And people loved him.
His new stuff, I'm just
because he had ghostwriters and people writing his music for him, and I don't know how much he was or wasn't involved, and even if he was involved, it didn't sound good. I mean, when I don't listen to Kanye West, but at the end of my time listening to Kanye West, I was already I was already losing interest in the lack of creativity. I could tell it wasn't. It was just generic pumping out whatever you can for.
Yeah, and I feel like once Drake came on the scene and everything like that, there was a lot more people in the industry who were great producers, who were doing creative stylings with their vocals and music. He wasn't as unique as he himself out to be, but he still made himself out to be the best. It was always he was better than everyone else. Very similar to Trump. He had that kind of narcissistic personality where he was better than everyone else. So when you,
in his words, he is the most influential artist of this generation.
Yeah. So
probably of all time, he would say. Which is funny because you were talking about him and Donald Trump, and I feel like they're both the same in I'm the best, I do it the best. No one's ever done it better. It's just great.
It's like narcissism.
Right. No one's better. This is the best thing.
No one could do better.
Right.
I got all the answers.
I got a test at the doctor's office. The doctor said it was the best test he's ever seen. There's never been another test like
that.
He never saw someone score so high. Never saw someone with blood pressure as properly pressurized as mine.
Right. Perfect balance. Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of times those are the people that are seeking power and attention, whether it be in the celebrity form or business like Donald Trump. Those are the people that are going to be that are so often at the top because they manipulate their way through for themselves. They're narcissists. They serve themselves and they manipulate their way into those positions and then utilize them for whatever they want to utilize it for. Maybe doing some good along the way to keep up appearances. I feel like that's another thing. People try to, overshadow. People try to allow, good gestures to overshadow pretty bad things that people do. Like you do something really wrong, but you give a little bit of charity, you donate to an organization. It's people commend you for it, but it doesn't really
change the actions.
Right. Right.
It's like it's a nice offering, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't cancel out anything. It doesn't erase anything.
All right. So hopefully he'll take a break from speaking. I can't imagine he will, but hopefully he'll use this time to introspect.
Well, now
he
he's
hasn't already done
on Twitter and Instagram, so I guess you'll have to follow him on another platform.
Oh, he spent it on both Twitter and Instagram. I heard he was trying to buy what's that
Parler.
That like right wing? Yeah, Parler. I've never used any of those.
Not speaking, sorry.
I don't know if anyone actually used those. I remember hearing that they were coming out. Doesn't Trump also have his own? What's it called?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Parler was banned in the App Store for Apple phones anyways.
That was in Trump's. Trump has his own social network, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he was involved with Parler in the beginning, or he was a supporter of it, but then he wanted to do his own thing.
Because he still posts on something. Sometimes I see it like it looks like Twitter. Parler. It's like kind of set up the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who uses those. I don't know what they're like. I just feel like it's hard. You can't take off like that. The platform can take off as a political platform. It's not how Twitter or Instagram started.
So maybe that's how very specific, crazy. Right. Yeah.
Right. You have to have something engaging to get people into your platform, not just we're right wing and don't censor you.
Right. So that's how you just hit the target.
Because even if you want to argue that Facebook or Instagram or Twitter are left wing or the corporate employees or the leaders are left wing, the actual platforms didn't start. They didn't market themselves to people as come join our progressive liberal platform. It's come join a great platform with good people and connect and share things.
I think these companies having a liberal mindset where it's like diversity and different minds, different religions, different thoughts, that's really important in a workplace. You want to have a liberal workspace like that, but it's about if they push a political agenda or when Facebook was fiddling with the elections, and that's when it's an issue. But to have that kind of mindset, it makes all people feel okay, I can be part of this, as opposed to Parler where it's like, no, this is what you have to be. It's like, it's not like an exclusivity thing. It's like, you have to fit our mold. And it's like, if Facebook was like that, or if they were like, you have to be a liberal, you have to be a leftist, or, something like that.
Right. It all comes back to the irony of living in a time where so many people want acceptance and diversity, and yet it seems like we're living in the most polarized and divisive times.
Exactly.
Which is so interesting.
Something's amiss, but we're failing to recognize what is it that it's amiss. Instead, we're like, someone else has to be at fault, or they have to be at fault. It's like,
I feel like it's people's inability to separate a person from action, to not hate a person, no matter how much. And I understand that there are certain topics that if you disagree on them, for one person, your disagreeing could is severe, but it's not a reason to, like, for example, abortion. I know for people who are pro or against abortion, for people who are against abortion or who don't want abortion at all ever, no matter what, for them it's like I've heard people say that you're murdering children. So for them, they can't get it out of they can't not do whatever they can to stop what's going on, but at the same time, yelling and spewing out, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're stupid, or
and also,
or you're doing
like
horrible
everything
things.
in life, it has to be taken by case matter.
Right.
For someone who has that kind of view, you still have to understand
Exactly.
A lot of things are not clear cut like that.
Exactly.
So there has to be
nothing is black and white.
Understanding of that. And
Nothing is black
there's a
and
lot
white.
of generalizing when it comes to communities or when it comes to rights. We just say yes or no, or like gun laws in America.
Right.
I live in Israel, in Tel Aviv. I can't own a gun because I live in Tel Aviv. You can only have guns in certain places. You have to go through a very rigorous process. You have to have 2 interviews, a mental health check, background check, everything. In America, there's a lot of these.
And mind you, in Israel, you can't. You're only allowed to have like 50 rounds of ammo or something on you, and you're not even allowed to just buy ammo.
If you ever shoot it, there is an intense investigation. Intense. But like in America, all these things are happening, and everything comes back to, we're either banning guns altogether, or then you have the other side where it's like, oh no, we should all have machine guns and just like AR-16s.
Just mow them down, right?
There's like, it's not a black and white thing at all, but we're so many of us in society are like that, where we just make everything black and white, and we just generalize the entire group of people who are for their religion. Make an assumption about something, deal with the law and just take extreme approaches without understanding that there's a lot of different things that go into it. Everything has to be taken on step-by-step cases. That's also why we have a judicial system. If someone commits a felony, you don't just say, off to jail, send him in there. Like, they have to go through a due process. So everything has to be taken like that. And we're just having very polarizing, we have a very polarized society at the moment. People are just taking very extreme approaches on both ends and failing to look for common ground. Compromisation is not really a thing nowadays. Understanding one another, actually hearing each other out, even if you don't agree with them. There's just a lot. I feel there's just a lot of passion. There's a lot of passion. People have a lot of passion, and it's just not being expressed. But it's not just passion; it's anger. There's a lot of anger.
Right. A lot of anger.
It's very frightening, and I hope that we can move forward. And with the election happening now in just over 2 years, I really hope that whoever candidates are put up on each end, I hope that they put in some good people.
I always wonder, why can't they just have why can't a good person, just get up, just an all around good person, nice
That's
to people.
Problem, is you have to find
there's a lot of good
person.
People.
But they have to be popular, which means they have to be good-looking. They have to speak well.
Donald Trump is not good-looking.
Oh no, not at all.
He looks like a baseball glove, and he was elected president. So,
but I can't imagine his makeup artist was picking that color foundation for him. I'm pretty sure he wanted that Crayola orange marker on his face himself.
Right.
So, but besides him, like Obama was such a whether or not elected politically, he was so well spoken. Very put together.
He was presidential. He was formal and presidential. Donald Trump lacked. He has no class.
None. And that's why it was so polarizing when he became a president, because it was such a stretch, because he didn't fit that classic mold. But so there's a lot of things. It's not just about having good views or whatever. It's really, people love the drama of the debates and all this stuff. And it's nonstop talk about the election for like a year and a half leading up to it. So it's just about like the gossip and the fun. It's and then it's all over social media with the different parodies and all that stuff. It's the society we're living in.
And people love drama. People crave drama. People
love the drama.
They just crave some sort of emotional stimulation, I feel like, in whatever form they can get it. And because they're not happy in their own scenarios, they seek it out. Because they're not happy in their own circumstances, so they seek out something exciting in a social media post, in an argument, in a thread, having an argument with some random person on the internet or whatever it is, or just saying something. Very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Really is.
Yeah, I remember reading something from someone who said, but it's pretty like straightforward, but that people in general, and I think everyone can sort of recognize this. People. We naturally crave emotional stimulation in whatever way that may be, whether it be, whether obviously the most ideal is things which bring us happiness, but sadness or fear is emotional stimulation. I think that's part of the reason that people like scary movies. Why would you want to why would you want to watch something that makes you cry or makes you sad? Why would you want to watch a movie that's not real, that just makes you feel really bad? It's because people just need that. They need a kick of something. They need a kick of something. And so if it's either, it could be a comedy, it could be an action, it could be anything, it could be a movie, but it needs to be something to get them going, to get them excited.
Totally.
And that's why yeah, that's why I think we're seeing so much going on social media, and so many people saying things, and so many people making comments they shouldn't, remarks they shouldn't, and then deleting them, and then all the nonsense that follows. And yeah, it's definitely crazy times. But hopefully things will be looking up. Hopefully we can move forward, and in a lot of different areas. Obviously, we spoke about a lot of different things, but I think that, you know, each person focusing on themselves and working on themselves and knowing what they could fix within themselves is the fastest way to fix anything. Societies aren't fixed by one person; it's fixed by every person in that society.
It takes us all.
Exactly, it really does.
We all play a role. We all have a part in this.
Yeah. Just like a painting, many different colors, many different shades, different textures.
50 Shades of Grey.
Brushes. Let's just throw out as many analogies as we can.
Seriously.
Yeah, hopefully things will look up, but that should be good. I think we're good here for the day. I think we're gonna call it an end here. I hope everyone enjoyed. Welcome to the very first episode of many more to come, with guests potentially as well to join in on the discussion about various things. It won't always be necessarily such hot button issues. Maybe we'll do a couple of episodes more about ourselves and our experiences growing up, and we're in terms of how we got to where we're at now. I hope everyone enjoyed. Sending a lot of love and good things and good vibes, as they say, out to everyone. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care.
Bye.